I'm going to start with a quote from Earl Nightingale. Getting along well with other people is still the world's most needed skill. With it, there is no limit to what a person can do. We need people. We need cooperation of others. There is very little that we can do alone. I'm Connie Durham. I'm your host of Courageous Women Summit, and I want to share with you today, you'll be happy to know, often conflict is not about you. I'm going to repeat that because don't you want to hear it? You'll be glad to know that often conflict is not about you. So very often, conflict is about low energy, trouble at work, stress, and all different things. But guess what? It affects our relationships with our spouses, with our kids, and with the people at work. And when somebody blows off steam at us, gets upset with us, downs us, criticizes us, it really puts a wedge in the relationship. It puts a wedge in the relationship, whether it's your spouse, whether it's your kids, and whether it's with your staff or the people at work. So what can we do to understand why there's so much conflict? Why is there so much conflict? Well, here's what you need to know. First of all, there are all different types of personality styles. And literally, some people's personality styles really easygoing. If you tried to be mean, they wouldn't respond back to you mean. They just don't have it in them. Like, not a mean bone in their body. But some people respond to you if you are harsh to them. They respond more harsh back to you. But there are other people who, whatever's going on, they may respond harsh to you because they literally blow off steam, blow up about something, and it probably wasn't even about you. It was probably about, like I said at the beginning, stress at work, something else that's going on. And they just get all wound up, all tight, and when they blow up on somebody, they feel better. Now, the person who received the blow up, I like to say they threw a lot of all over everybody whenever they blew up. And now whoever was there is feeling terrible. They are like upset. And the person who just blew up walks away and they're fine. And you think there's a problem still because this was just a problem. But they blew up, blew off steam, and now they're just fine. So if you happen to be married to somebody, you can understand that when they blow off steam, blow up at you, say mean things, it's not even about you. It's about them. And it's how they deal with stress. Does that help any? And you may find that you are a person who does that and you don't even know it. So what happens with that is if you do that to your family, to your spouse, at work, people get kind of nervous to talk to you or share things with you, or they never know when you're going to blow up. And so be aware of that. And there's a lot more to that, but I can't go into all that today. The next thing is that people can only be what they have seen and what they have experienced. As I started to dig into relationships, because I deal with communication between couples and how we can communicate better with each other, but there's so many people are just really different. And they don't communicate in the same ways. Well, people can only be what they've experienced in life. So let's think back to your family. How did you grow up? How did people talk to each other in your family? Did they support each other? Were they calm? Did they get very excited? Did they blow up all over everybody? Were you raised by one parent? Or, an alcoholic parent? Or your parents divorced and you were in a blended family. I mean, there's all kinds of scenarios, isn't there? And how we grow up and what happens to us in our past, everything that we experience pours into who we are now. So we can think about that for ourselves. But then I want you to stop and think about it for your spouse. So if you have any conflict or marital problems, think about your spouse, their family, where they came from, what all they've been through. Everything that happens to us colors our life in some way. We each have a specific personality, and that's very specific. And that doesn't really change too much. But everything that happens to us does change us, sometimes for the good and sometimes for the bad. Remember that old saying, if it don't kill you, it makes you better? Well, you know, there's a lot of truth in that, because if we can learn from every circumstance so that we can do better the next time, then life will get better. But often people don't stop and think and learn from the mistakes or learn from the challenges in life. You know, I like to have a good outlook, so I usually will try to find the bright side of things, because what good is it to look at the dark side of things, right? So I try to look at the bright side of things, but everybody's not able to do that. The third thing is people act upon their personal morals and values. And so in this day and time, we expect everyone else to act upon our morals and values. But let's go back to the last point, of which people can only act out what they've experienced, what they know. If they haven't experienced something, they can't demonstrate that to you. So if you have married somebody who has different values, different beliefs, different morals, then you're going to see that in your marriage. And it probably would do you, a little good to get a little help in that. So maybe it can last a lifetime. Don't we want our marriages to last a lifetime? But people act upon their own personal morals and values. And you cannot expect them to be or do anything they've never seen before. And then the fourth thing is, opposites can really get under each other's skin. I mean, whether it's with your spouse, or with your kids, or somebody at work, opposites can really get under each other's skin. Why? Because one person is loud and one person is really quiet, and they don't appreciate the loud person. One person laughs at things and another person takes everything seriously. One person is a people person, and they know how to present, they know how to use their words. And another person, man, they tell you straight to the point, just like it is, whether it hurts your feelings or not. So when it comes to couples or to conflict in any kind of situation, literally opposites can actually be helpful to each other because they're each good at different things. And if you can tap into that, that's what I teach in my communication secrets classes. If you can tap into that, you can be a great team, whether it's a marriage, a team at work, or working with your kids. If you can start to understand the personalities, you can understand the needs of the person a little bit more. But opposites often literally just get under each other's skin unless there's a moderator. We'd all rather work with somebody who's a little more like us because we're more comfortable with that, right? And the fifth thing is, I'm going to tell you the 5 love languages, because the love languages, if you don't receive your love language or your spouse doesn't receive their love language, sometimes that causes conflict because there's that need that's not being filled. So the first love language is touch. So if your spouse, has that need for, that's their top love language, and they need to have touch, it can even just be sitting on the couch together, shoulder to shoulder, or maybe they like to have their arm around you. But then we go back to the opposites. And maybe one spouse is a person who doesn't like anybody touching them, and one likes to sit close and be touchy-touchy. That can be a challenge. And so you each have to give a little to get past that. But these kind of things cause conflict in marriages, and you don't even realize it because maybe you don't know the love languages and you haven't stopped to think about it. Another love language is time, and that is where one spouse or both require time together. And it doesn't matter what's going on, they need personal time together. Even if it's just sitting watching TV, going out to dinner together. People who have kids, they really have a hard time getting time together. And so when the kids all go to bed, that's why it's important for kids to have bedtime. Kids all go to bed, mom and dad maybe had an hour and a half that they can sit down, talk about their day without any interruptions. And those kind of things make a big difference. Time together. And the third one on the love language is gifts. And these are those people who are delighted when they are given a gift. Is that you? A surprise gift, maybe something that's not even expected. If that's your spouse, pay attention to that. A little something extra for them once in a while, just a little surprise. Gifts make a difference for the person whose number one love language is gifts. And then there are affirmations. This person needs to be affirmed that they're doing a good job, that you love them, that you approve of them. And so without words of affirmation, they feel like you don't care for them. You know, no word is not a good word. No word is bad. They need for you to affirm them. And that might be you. And you might need your spouse to affirm you. But now you realize that it's not that they don't love you or they don't care. Everybody communicates differently. But if somebody needs affirmation and they don't feel cared for, this causes conflict in a marriage or in a relationship. I teach on relationships, and so I kind of get hung up on that. And then the last one is acts of service. And this is where if your spouse has a love language of acts of service, then that means they just need you to do those little things for them. You know, you took their plate to the table at dinner, maybe you put it on the plate, or, you know, scratch their back or rub their feet. Anyway, acts of service. I know I myself, my husband is literally that personality style where he does acts of service. He loves to do things for you. And actually, I like to do things for people too, but that's not my top love language. So pay attention to what your top love language is and what your spouse's top love language is. And it can help you connect better and keep the conflict down. Now, this talk was about conflict, and it really does pertain to home life and to work. And so pay attention. That person at work, you know, who blasts you and you feel very small, or they don't like you, or mad that they blasted you, that's it. They just have to like blow up all over everybody, and then they're stressed and now they feel better. Does that help you at all? All right, so conflict is not always about you. My name is Connie Durham. My business is Connie's Clever Concepts, and I am the Relationship Transformer. Thanks for listening today on Courageous Women's Summit.